You were a stand-up comedian and actor. You've been featured on Comedy Central and a bunch of Hollywood films, but you now have become the TED guru, TED mentor. You've done 3 TED Talks, and he knows how to land them and crush them. And he's garnered thousands and thousands of views, and he actually is helping me land my TED Talk, and I am going through the process with him.
Do you want blissful balance in your personal and professional life? Great. What's up, guys? My name is Kerry Jack, and I want to help you happy hustle a life you love, one full of passion, purpose, and positive impact. I'm a lifestyle entrepreneur, a professional model / actor, a digital marketing specialist, a podcast host, author, a biohacker, an eco-warrior, a martial artist, a hippie cowboy, and a humanitarian. My goal is to educate, inspire, and entertain you to live a life of passion, purpose, and positive impact. It is time to happy hustle your dream reality. Yee-yee!
All right, guys. So here's what I want to cover today. So I'm going to tell you about the TED mission. We're going to talk about how you find the sites that are seeking speakers, how to write like a powerful talk that's going to resonate, and then also, you know, how you get the application in, or like what we call the pitch to get selected. So for those of you who don't know me, just quickly, as Carrie was saying, like I started my career off as a stand-up comic, and I got to tour with George Lopez, Kid and Play. I was on Comedy Central, I was in some movies and stuff. And, you know, for me, like that was the dream. Like I was living it. And for whatever reason, like I stopped feeling connected to my audience, and the love was like fizzling. And so I decided to go back to grad school, and I ended up getting a job at a college teaching in the theater department, and I was an administrator and stuff. And I couldn't stay away from the stage, right? So I started teaching it, and I felt like that's where I could find my love again. And so I started teaching this humor class. And what ended up happening at the campus was that it became so popular that students were waiting years to find their way in. And we had to, like, you know, create a different class. And then I created a community class where people from the community could come and learn stand-up comedy. And what they would do is they would the goal was to write an original 5-minute set and then deliver it live for a live audience. And it was sold out for 3 years straight. So I didn't really totally understand what had happened, like at the time, or why this was so successful. I really thought that people would be coming to the class because they wanted to become stand-up comics. And that was actually the furthest thing from the truth. Like they liked comedy, they liked stand-up, but really they had something to say, and it could have been any medium. It could have been a lot of different things. And for them, they were just like, hey, bucket list, stand up, let's do this thing. So now I have, I've kind of parlayed this class into like that's the idea that I had for my first TED Talk. And so, and I had always had a dream, like I want to get on TED. I want to, you know, leverage that into a speaking career. And that's exactly what I did. And then after that, I just started coaching it. It became a natural thing because I think I'm a coach and a teacher at heart. And so I've built this community now where, you know, there's over 200 people have landed talks and leveraged them for their careers, and are still today seeing amazing benefits from it. Well, I just had 4 clients get featured on the main page of the TEDx YouTube channel. They get 25,000 views a day when that happens. So it's just blown up, and I love it. I love everything about it. So all this is to say, you know, TED Talk can change your life, both professionally and personally. It certainly did for me. I was really amazed at like the personal growth that I had to go through. Each talk like was a new journey, because when you really like zero in on a message and make it like as clear and concise as possible, what ends up happening is that you have to ask yourself difficult questions about what you really want to say and who you really are. Mm-hmm. And so that was the piece that was surprising to me. But also, of course, it's helped me, you know, reach and grow my audience and grow my business. When I first launched that first talk, I booked 12 speaking gigs right out of the gate. I just sent it to my community. And then that's where I got in touch with my agent, and my agent said, you know, your minimum is $3,500 a speaking gig, which was cool. He set the rate. And then it goes up from there, and you can get gigs that are 10K, 15K. And then when people know who you are, then it sky's the limit.
Mhm.
So then that's how all of this kind of came about. And you've heard of like, the Brene Brown, Simon Sinek, Sean Aker, names like this, but there's a ton of folks that have hundreds of thousands of views, millions, or not even that many views, but are leveraging their talk and using it for their business. And that's what I want to kind of talk to you guys about. So here's my book that's coming out, which is really cool. I'm proud of this. It's called Author to Speaker. And this was a direct result of like, one of my talks that I did. A relationship was built, and, it's going into pre-sale here in a couple of weeks. So I'm excited about that.
Very cool.
Heck yeah.
Hell yeah. So they work. That's why we're here. Let's do this thing. All right. So I'm going to challenge some common beliefs. I don't know if you guys have heard about like how to get a TED Talk, but there's a lot of misinformation out there. A lot of folks doing some weird stuff, but I'm going to clear that up. I'm going to give you some super duper simple steps. I'm going to use the word duper because I'm a dad, and I'm going to make you, I'm going to give you like the steps that you need here today. You're going to make progress on it. Like when we leave here today, I want you to feel like I can go and do this myself. Okay. So I'm going to tell you about TED, why it's different than TEDx, and then again, how we can, find those kind of folks that are looking for speakers. So the mission is important to start with because it all kind of stems from here. So this is what they say. We believe passionately in the power of ideas to change attitudes, lives, and ultimately the world. Our agenda is to make great ideas accessible and to spark conversation. So why does this matter? It's all about your audience. Carrie nailed it earlier. Like it's about giving. And so in all things TED, when you're applying, when you're thinking about, what's the talk I want to give, it's about giving. And it's also about an idea. So this kind of trips people up where it's like, well, what do we mean by idea? So it's not just like, here are my tips or here's, something that I want to teach you, but we want to share something from either an experience we've had or an observation, where like we used to think one way and then like it kind of changed for us. And so it really needs to be like, why are you the person to give the talk, and what is the idea that we can all access?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So TEDx is licensed by TED. So it essentially is TED. And what they've done is they've created TEDx that allows people to run events all over the world. And so what they do is folks apply for a license, they get some training, they get accepted, and then they can run a TED event. This is the way that they're spreading their mission, is by allowing for these sites all over the world to exist. TEDx organizers are volunteers. They can't get paid. They can't get make money off of this. So the primary person that is the organizer and has applied is doing this for, the love of TED. They might also have a connection to it in some kind of way where they, want to promote a sponsor of theirs or something like that. Businesses can sponsor the event, but the organizers cannot make any money off of it. The majority of TEDx sites only hold one event. And the reason is folks jump in and they realize how much work this is.
Yeah.
And they go, all right, that was fun. So what you get is a lot of turnover and a lot of new people that are running the event. And so that can be frustrating sometimes because it's like, oh man, I don't know if they have this thing totally together. There are some sites that have been around for, 10 years plus. Meaning like the same organizers running the show, or the team is the same, or at least they carry over all of the, knowledge and experience. Again, there's about 3,000 events a year, maybe closer to 4,000 now. So there's a ton of opportunity. There isn't a standard application process. So, part of the work that I do is really help you get your application to pop so that wherever you submit it to, it really stands out. And then, TEDx sites, they have to hold at least one event every year to keep their license. So sometimes they host multiple events in a year.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Apologies for interrupting your programming, but I have to tell you, the best investment you can make in yourself is one in which helps you acquire skills. You've probably heard people talk about, oh, just invest in yourself and you'll be successful. Yes, that's true to a degree, but you have to invest in skills that will ultimately help you achieve your desired results. And I think one of the best skills one can possess, be it an entrepreneur or an aspiring entrepreneur, is the sales sword. Really knowing how to sell, utilizing pressure free persuasion, which will make you more money and more impact. Now, if you want to know how to sell more efficiently and effectively, I just launched a sales course called The Proven Roadmap Process to Selling Millions of Dollars and helping you to increase your conversions guaranteed. And you can get access to this new sales course that The Happy Hustle is launching at thehappyhustle.com/sales. And if you act fast, you'll get it at the lowest price it'll ever be available, because we are launching it and we want to gain amazing testimonials and social proof to further share this knowledge. So if you act fast, you can get it at the lowest price it'll ever be. That's at thehappyhustle.com/sales. Now let's get back to this episode.
All right. So takeaways here, basically remember that the organizers are not full-time, often not experienced. So, be patient and kind through this process. Try to make their jobs easier. I know this is basic, but, follow directions. I've been on the other side of selection committees, and you'd be surprised just like how many folks are just not doing what's asked on the application. It doesn't really help to blow up the inbox of the organizer. I mean, if you have a connection and there's a way to leverage that connection, great. But I've heard more complaints from them than like, oh, I'm so glad you reached out, Finally, we got to lose the ego and just let the idea really lead the show, because that's what's going to get you the talk. Okay. So this is fun. Like, how do you find who's accepting applications? So this is their map. You go to TED.com /TEDx/events. And this is what comes up, the global map, and you can see like everything that's happening. What you would then do is zoom in. Let's say you're in Colorado, and you go to TEDx Mile High in Denver. This is like one of the most successful TEDx sites there is. And then you click on it and it's like on TED, it doesn't really have any information. You're like, oh, great. So you're telling me the date and all that. Fine. And so then you got to go Google and find their website, go to where the tab is that they have like speakers or audition or whatever. And then you click on it and it's like, womp, womp, womp. Sorry, auditions have closed. And it's like, well, shit, that was a lot of work. So what I've done is this is one like that is accepting, and this is kind of what it would look like, right? Like you fill it out on the thing. But what I went ahead and did is I created a spreadsheet and I update it every month or two that has the global list of like all the events that are happening. So I'm going to give that to you guys here today, the link. And it's a massive tool that will help you, rock it out. Okay.
Man.
Now, the spreadsheet doesn't have all of the links to directly like to the direct application, but it's going to save you a ton of time. Okay. So to recap, TED's all about serving, spreading powerful messages. Focus on your idea, lead with that. Remember that the organizers are volunteers, and just start engaging. Like you can go to an event, you can sign up for the email list. Like, half the time people just knowing when to apply is like half the battle to get selected. All right, let's move into this next section. And I definitely want to leave time for questions. So I'm going to try and buzz through some of this. I might skip some slides as we kind of go along.
Mm-hmm.
In this one, I want to cover, why I think you should start writing your talk before you even get selected, how to use the TED Talk form. I'm going to tell you what a through line is, what TED Talks have in common, and then what a TED Talk is not. All right. So I'm an advocate for starting to write your talk already, because how well you communicate the idea is a big part of getting selected. And when you start writing, your idea changes. So really getting clear on that is pretty huge. And then if you actually get selected, sometimes they have a really short runway. It's uncommon, but I've had clients literally have a month to prepare. I've had 2 clients that had 30 days. And luckily, like, we had gotten them prepared, and like they felt pretty confident, and they were like, yeah, let's do it. Sometimes they get last minute cancellations, and so they look for folks, or it's just that they got their license late, or just simply are not good at organizing. Also, just writing helps you get just as excited about the content as the experience. Sometimes we could put a lot of weight on, like, I'm doing a TED talk, it's a thing, and then we lose sight of like the actual message we want to share. I'm just an advocate for, like, beginning. So I just think if you start writing and creating, like, it's going to come into existence. All right, so this is a visual that I created. This is what I believe the simplest visual is of a TED talk. It's based on Julian Treasure's talk, How to Speak So That People Want to Listen. Now, what you're going to see here is just like all great TED Talks grab your attention in the beginning. That's usually by a question, a story, or a startling statement. And then they introduce the problem as clearly and as early as possible. And then ultimately that leads us to what the solution is to this problem. And in the TED world, the solution is like the big idea. Here's my idea, right? So let's just real quick check out how Julian actually does it. And oh shoot, did I share? I don't know if I'm sharing audio. Oh, there it is. Got it. Here we go.
The human voice. It's the instrument we all play. It's the most powerful sound in the world, probably. It's the only one that can start a war or say, I love you. And yet many people have the experience that when they speak, people don't listen to them.
So there it is, right out of the gate. Like, we're under 30 seconds here. And Julian's like, the human voice. It's the only thing that can say, I love you, or start a war. I'm like, whoa, like, I'm hooked, right? It's like that powerful, startling statement. And you're like, yeah, the voice is powerful. And then boom, right after that, he hits us with, and yet many of us have the experience that when we speak, people don't listen. So what he's done is introduce the problem so quickly, so clearly, and create common ground, right? We all know that this is a problem that affects everyone. So that's how he sets it up. I think it's one of the best examples of like how quickly you can actually draw in an audience, tell them the problem, and then have us on the edge of our seats. So let's go to the next one. This is Celeste. I'm going to skip this one, but I just want to tell you, like, what she does, also really powerful. She asks a question to bring us in. And it's not just a question that's like, oh, some people yes, some people no. It's a question where like we're all like, yep, that's me. So she builds common ground, and then that question leads us to the problem, which is very similar, that we're not listening to each other. So let's skip down. Something new and cool that TED has been promoting is like, we have the big idea, right? We know what that is. We've seen the talk that where that's like the quintessential, but also they started to promote like these other ones. There's like the tech demo, the performance, the artist statement, the small idea. There's a TED talk that's called How to Use a Paper Towel. I'm not making that up. The issue talk. So there are actually different ways to apply to TED and set yourself apart. But I'm going to give you a tip. Like, you have to say, hey, I'm doing the artist statement as my submission. It's one of the 7 types of TED Talks. I found it here on the TED website, because the organizers aren't always going to know this stuff, but they do know that they want a diversity of talks. And so when you frame it that way, you'll have a really great shot at it. All right, so quickly, what's a through line? So through line, this is directly from Chris Anderson, the head of TED. There's a helpful word used to analyze plays, movies, and novels that applies to talks too. It is through line, the connecting theme that ties together each narrative element. Every talk should have one. So think of this as like your thesis statement. And what it does is it guides the talk. It makes it enjoyable. So every story you choose or example you choose to share, it ties it back into the through line. And a lot of folks, like, we have so much to say, and we think that our talk should say it all, but actually that would make it confusing. So when you create a very clear through line, it makes you hold it tight. So here's a couple of examples. Vulnerability should be treasured, not hidden from. Now, I know we're all dudes in here, but every single dude knows that's Brene Brown, right? I think everybody knows that vulnerability piece comes from Brene. And like, she owns the word. So this is the power of like having a really concise through line, and taking charge of like ownership over a word can like massively change your business. And she does that beautifully here. The other one is this: more choice actually makes us less happy. And this is from a talk by Barry Schwartz, The Paradox of Choice. Mm-hmm. And if you look at both of these, what they do is they move us from what is to what could be. So that's what your talk is doing too. It's saying, here's where we are. We're running from vulnerability. Here's where we need to be. We need to treasure it. So that's how you think about your talk. That's how you think about your through line. All TED Talks have the emotional, the novel, the memorable. Where people get stuck is in the novel. They think, oh gosh, my talk isn't unique enough. Therefore, I'm just, I'm going to quit. I'm not going to do this. It's not like, the most brilliant thing that ever was created. And that's not what it really means, novel. Like, if it's your experience, that's already novel. If it's something that came to you, that's already a form of being novel. Now, a TED Talk is not a lecture. It's not a motivational speech. It's not a personal story. It does have elements of personal story often. It does have moments of inspiring people and motivating them, but it's not that in and of itself. So quick recap: start writing your talk. TED Talks have a structure, use it. Your through line will put you head and shoulders above the competition. Most people who submit won't even have that through line. So you have it. If it's clear, you're going to get selected. Great talks have the emotional, novel, and memorable, and TED Talks are not motivational speeches, personal stories, or lectures. All right, here's the application stuff, guys. So let me skip over this. This is kind of what it looks like on TED. If you notice this sentence here, it says, in one sentence, what is the key takeaway that you want your audience to know or feel after hearing this talk? This is your through line. They don't use that word because that confuses people. But when you go to an application and they say, hey, give us the one sentence thing, that's your through line. That's where you want to put it. Okay. So the most powerful part of your application is going to be the video. And if I knew William was here, I would have picked his to show. Maybe I could go pull it up here in a sec. But this is Chuck. Chuck just landed his talk at a site over near Montreal. And I want to show you guys just kind of what's happening inside this minute and a half.
35,000. That's the average number of decisions we make each and every day. 40% of those decisions are automatic, which leaves a full 60% as intentional. That's the good news. That puts us in the driver's seat. That means the lives we lead and the lives we influence are some of the decisions we've made. I'm Chuck Walkendorfer, and truth is, leadership came early to me in my life. As the oldest in my family, I was expected to lead by example. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. After a career change, I struggled. As a financial advisor for American Express, I found myself at one point with no money, no credit, and nothing in the fridge. That led to the realization that one of the obstacles I had to overcome was myself and the decisions I was making. The key was seeing decision making as pivotal. You see, whether you recognize it or not, we are all leaders. If you can embrace that, you can begin to see that the decisions you make matter. Research has shown that decision making has twice the impact on our performance than talent and skill combined. And unlike our IQ, we can, with practice and focus and effort, improve our decision making ability. If we can do a better job of leading ourselves, then we can lead and influence others more effectively and have a more positive influence on the world around us.
All right, check. All right, so this is what he does, right? He presents the problem. He tells us his connection to the problem and sort of his credibility in the space, and then tells us like what we can do about it. What is the takeaway? What is he going to give? And that's basically the form of the application video. We pull them in, we tell them the problem, and we say how we're connected to it, and we give those takeaways. And if you can do that clearly and concisely, you're going to nail it. You're going to get your talk. So let's jump down to the next one.
35,000.
I'm going to skip over this one. All right. So just some pro tips on that application. So I want you to think like a TEDx organizer and like, who's the ideal speaker? They're credible. They're authentic. They can speak publicly, but not necessarily a professional speaker. That's not like a requirement. Sometimes that even scares them. Someone who wants to give, not gain, somebody with a big idea. This is really what it boils down to. It's clean, it's simple, and this is how the decisions are made. All right, the other thing they might be asking themselves is that might have nothing to do with you is, does this talk fit into the next event or theme, right? Do we already have someone speaking on this topic? It's like, these are things you can't control. Are they reliable, friendly? Are they understanding of the staff, volunteer folks? That you can't control. So what I want you to know is that if you're not getting selected right away, it may have nothing to do with how good your idea is. There are other factors at play. Do not, though, appear as though you want to sell something that's like an automatic, like they're going to boot you because one of the guidelines is you can't do that. And sometimes, you know, like your credibility is not selling. Like if you were like, hey, I wrote this super successful book, it's changed people's lives, you should include that. But what you don't want to say is, I wrote this book, it's coming out on the same date as your event, therefore you should choose me. You know, like it's not like that. Also, don't over dramatize or appear performative in your application video. Like, just do you. Like, again, I wouldn't pester the organizers. And then just use language that you use in everyday conversation. Like if you go and watch TED Talks, even though like they can be intellectual, they're still very conversational. It's just like we're hanging out. So, all right, here's the recap. Do your research, know the mission of TED. You can discover those sites that are seeking speakers, write your talk. Most importantly, know what your through line is, submit it, and get selected, y'all. And, you know, the spoiler is like, I want to help you do that. And so, and I can streamline it for you. And I just want to invite you to a call, and we can kind of brainstorm your idea. And if nothing else, I'll leave you with a clearer picture of your idea.